Sport teaches you that nothing happens overnight. I came from being the best in tennis, and I wanted to be the best that I could in VC. So if you want to be the best at something, you have to put in those hours. It's overstated to live it, breathe it, drink it, eat it, but it's absolutely true.
Welcome to The Path. I'm Ryan Roslansky, the CEO of LinkedIn. Today, my guest is Serena Williams. Best known for being one of the greatest athletes of all time, she's also a cultural icon, an entrepreneur, and a venture capitalist. She has her own beauty line, has invested in more than 80 companies, and is a leading voice for equity and inclusion in the VC world. But it all started by killing it on the tennis court. Here's how Serena Williams paved her path. Serena, I want to go way, way back to the beginning. I normally ask people like what they wanted to be when they grew up, but maybe for you, was it always obvious that it was going to start with tennis?
Yeah, it was pretty obvious. I grew up, since I can remember, I've been on the tennis court. And, that was just what I was supposed to do in life. And although I wanted to do other things like, be a veterinarian one day or whatever, it wasn't meant to be. And so, I spent most of my days playing tennis.
I grew up playing tennis as well. And, a lot of people...
I recognize you.
Yeah, sure you do. Let's make sure we have that line. So this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. A lot of people dreamt of being, professional tennis players. Obviously, only a few can make it. So even when you go back to those early days as a young teenager, what do you think that was like unique about you and your approach and your mentality that allowed you to become a professional tennis player?
I think what was unique about me was my background and how I was trained from my parents, my dad, and also my mom, how much they put me on the court, and also being with my sister, Venus. We were just so ready and so prepared. And so I think that kind of made the biggest difference.
Tennis wasn't just some after-school sport for Serena. It was a family affair. She played alongside her sister Venus, and their father wrote a 78-page plan for their journey to becoming pros. By the time Serena turned 14, she was already making history as one of the youngest ever to join the tour. 2 years later, she shocked the tennis world by upsetting 2 top 10 players at the Ameritech Cup. It was a clear sign that Serena was on the right path and that she would eventually change the game. That approach to approach tennis differently from the early days, it sounds like that came naturally. How did that come about, to do it differently the whole time?
It was very authentic.
Yeah.
We weren't trying to blend in. We were just being ourselves. And I think tennis was so one way. And we obviously didn't look like the average tennis player. We were Black girls from Compton. And that just hadn't happened before at the time. We didn't look like everyone else, and we didn't try to fit in like everyone else.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that made us different. And that also made us stronger, and it made us tougher. And we just kind of leaned into that.
That mindset, authentic and unwilling to blend in, became Serena's competitive edge. At 17 years old, she won her first Grand Slam title, marking a new era in tennis. Since then, Serena has been collecting trophies around the world, setting records, and then breaking them. And in 2017, she had one of the most iconic moments in sports history, winning the Australian Open while being 8 weeks pregnant. But at the 2022 US Open, Serena announced she'd be evolving into a new role. So you've had a remarkable career in tennis, but at a certain point you decided that you were going to, I think you called it, evolve away from tennis instead of retiring. What was going through your mind to make that decision, and what does that mean, evolving away?
I don't like the word retire, because tennis will always be in my life some way, shape, or form. So I was thinking to myself, well, evolving sounds more like a Serenaism, and it's definitely more me. But also, it's interesting because in tennis and in sport in general, you're fairly young when you're finished. And you can also have an opportunity to do other things.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to evolve. I had already started doing tons of things in VC, evolving into leaning into more of that. So
I love that.
Yeah.
What led you to want to get into investing at all?
I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. It was very natural. I just always had so many questions. I always wanted to know, like, gosh, I have some money. Like, how did I not invest in some of these big companies that are coming up? And so naturally, I started asking questions like, well, how did I miss this? Or how do you even invest in that? Like, what is the process? How do I get my name put in the bowl to be like, okay, call me if some amazing idea comes? And along the line, I realized that not a lot of women were being funded, and even less women and people of color were being funded. And I felt like it was my mission not to change it, but to elevate and amplify that message, and start a company that would invest in women, but also would invest in men, and would invest in just a great founder and a great product, which was still my passion.
How do you even learn how to be a venture capitalist?
So I don't do any pivots. So for me, it was a long process. And I think if anything, sport teaches you that nothing happens overnight. And that for me, I like to try to be good at what I do. I came from being the best in tennis, and I wanted to be the best that I could in VC. As I was investing, I learned a lot. There was a lot of bumps in the road, and you make a lot of mistakes. Unfortunately, you become your best self with a mistake as much as it hurts, right? Before I even started our fund, I started hiring teams. I started hiring people around me that were way smarter than I was, but also building up our investing cadence, getting those unicorns under our belt. And so we invested for over 4 years. We had a small team. We were investing and building those relationships, because VC is all about relationships. So it wasn't overnight, it wasn't a pivot, but it was definitely something that took a lot of time.
Most people don't know Serena made her first investment about 15 years ago, way before she evolved away from tennis. She heard an executive on a panel say that a very small amount of VC money goes to women. Serena thought it had to be a mistake, but it wasn't. So just like she did in tennis, Serena was ready to shake up the status quo. In 2014, she started Serena Ventures. She's put her own money into more than 80 companies, 14 of which are unicorns. One of the most important parts about being a successful venture capitalist is figuring out what to invest in. And when you see these excited, new founders that come and talk to you about their idea, what are you usually looking for to know whether or not it's a good thing to invest in?
Well, the first thing we're looking for is the marketplace. Is there a marketplace for it? Also, innovation and technology. So with all the excitement around AI, just how it's changing businesses. So those are the things that we look for. And also, is the founder really connected to it? Because if the founder doesn't have a true connection, and they're doing it just because it's a white space, then usually it's not as successful. I've learned as someone that has had a real struggle in something in the past. So those are just a very few other things that we look at. And we do a ton of due diligence before actually investing.
I know you've also started companies yourself. Tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, I am a serial entrepreneur, and I always said I didn't want to be a founder. And I feel like I'm always somehow involved in that, including as a venture. When you start a venture company, you realize that you're actually a founder there because you're spending so much time and so many hours building it. And so for me, it's been really, really bananas to just continue to do this. But I have Win Beauty, which is amazing. I love beauty products, and I always have. And so Win Beauty has been another one of my babies.
I've always said that you can only learn how to be a leader or a CEO by doing the job. What was that process like of actually being the founder or the leader of a company? Did it come naturally to you? Did you have to learn how to do it?
I think you're right. You're absolutely right. You have to learn it, and you have to sit and do it. And when I first started Serena Ventures, it was I think I was spending 26 hours a day on it, as you probably know. And as impossible as that sounds, it's true. You just have to really be able to put in those hours and understand what you're getting yourself into. It's definitely worth it in the end, but it takes a lot of time.
When you think about the business decisions that you're making right now, is there a through line that you've found from what's made you successful on the court or in those early days, all the way that's pulled through? What's the key?
I think it just all boils down to who's going to work the hardest. And when you look at some of the CEOs that are doing the best, they work the hardest. And it might be overwhelming. And I think sometimes it could be too much. But is it really? It depends on what your goals are. So if you want to be the best at something, you have to put in those hours. And I've seen that front and center with so many things. So I think it's underrated, the hours and the time and the hard work. And it's also overstated to live it, breathe it, drink it, eat it. But it's absolutely true.
For Serena, it's important to back startups that can make the world better. So when UK-based health and hygiene company Reckitt approached her to be their first entrepreneur in residence, Serena thought it was a no-brainer. Their social impact program, Catalyst, will be giving millions of dollars to support health and hygiene entrepreneurs. And for the next 3 years, Serena will mentor those founders, many of whom are women-led ventures or businesses founded by underrepresented entrepreneurs. This isn't just about the ROI. It's about impact. It's about Serena using her platform, her experience, and her network to create real change. You must have opportunities to get involved in so many things.
Yeah.
How do you make decisions of what to get involved in yourself?
Now I'm at a space where I really want to get involved in things that are helping people and helping society. And my latest involvement with Reckitt, with the Catalyst program, is being able to really invest in women and really invest in people in underserved communities that are changing their communities and that are really helping their communities. And so for me, that's healthcare and hygiene and really focusing on how to uplift and how much it helps kids.
Yeah.
You know, it literally can save lives.
Yeah.
And those are things that I like to be a part of. If it is something that I'm spending my personal time on outside of VC, I really like to pick and choose on things that are making a difference in the world.
You know, if you can operate at the intersection of doing good and doing well, that's the place to be. And it seems like that's a lot of where you're investing your time.
Being successful in what you do is twofold. Of course, you want to invest in that company that's going to be $1 billion or a multi-billion-dollar company. But also, I think it's important to invest in those companies that maybe aren't that big, but that are helping people or saving lives and that are changing people's lives for the better.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that looking at it in twofold like that can really just make you sleep well at night, you know, and I think that's awesome.
I do think more and more there's going to be an intersection of those two things.
Yeah.
Like the things that are good for society.
Like bringing
are the
that technology into that.
that
Exactly.
become big businesses. Serena, you've had a remarkable career, and I'm sure you get asked this a lot, but for anyone on LinkedIn that's trying to figure out what to do next, how to think about their career, if someone asks you, Serena, what is your best career advice? What do you tell them?
If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Ooh.
So I'm going to leave it at that. I actually got that from my dad.
I love that.
So it's really important, obviously, like a business plan or whatever. You know, I think business plans look totally different nowadays. But you have to have a plan because if not, it's not going to work.
So here's my takeaway. Serena's story is about challenging convention. It's not about fitting in or following the status quo. It's about putting in the long hours of work and being incredibly intentional about the direction you're looking to take. Her path started with a 78-page plan written by her father, a vision that taught her being different was her greatest asset, and that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. She didn't follow the traditional junior circuit. At 14, she turned pro. At 17, she won her first Grand Slam title, and then went on to dominate the game of tennis. When she turned her sights on business, it was to break more ground. She became an entrepreneur and venture capitalist who has backed more than 80 companies, many led by women and underrepresented founders. Her story is a reminder that nothing happens overnight, but also that nothing is out of reach. So whether you're on the court or in the boardroom, remember, success takes an intentional plan, relentless hard work, and the courage to stay true to who you are, no matter what the room looks like.